There we go, that's what I want.
Okay, this
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. You
Press
have to
the
click it.
button.
You press the button, damn it.
Press the button.
Don't push the button.
Best rating ever.
Props to kid for making that AMV.
Even this isn't much of a video focused panel, but anyway, okay, now before we dive into all of the madness that is the Tenchi Muyo universe, we're gonna take a brief nostalgia trip with you, okay, to the distant year of 2000.
Shinto shrine deep in rural Japan. A boy turns guilty. Was attacked. Tenchi Masaku, the reality Tenchi Multiverse. You enter a world where princesses traverse the galaxy in living ships. Space pirates plunder and loot. Galaxy police patrol the stars, protecting each other. The most important discovery here is that 6 crazy women living under the same roof all have the hots for him. Deal with party ancient demons, mad scientists, and shared bathroom time. The universe needs a new champion. Tenchi needs some peace and quiet. Tenchi Muyo, starting Monday, July 3rd. Lots brings only Toonami.
Yay, Toonami.
Yay, nostalgia.
Okay, okay, now I've Okay, now I found out that the first, actually this first slide is completely wrong. This was based upon my terrible, terrible foreigner knowledge.
Okay, turn that up.
Yes.
All right, so over here you had the 3 series. You had Tenchi Muyo, Tenchi Universe, and Tenchi Tokyo. Kid being from England, they were all aired just under the name Tenchi Muyo.
Which was confusing as hell. Most of you guys, I imagine, have seen at least a good chunk of the original 3 shows. Some of the stuff you might not have seen. There are actually more than a dozen different Tenchi-related anime that all take place within the same canon. There are 2 separate manga series, countless video games, novels, doujinshi, and it all gets really, really confusing. Now, while I go through the basic character overview, I am going to need you to turn this mic down because this mic is crazy loud. Okay, so here is just a quick recap of our cast of characters. We have Tenchi, who is probably the only harem protagonist I actually like.
One of the few harem protagonists who actually has a personality.
You can tell because he's hardworking, you know, he's smart, he's kind to people. You can kind of see why, you know...
He's good at something besides video games.
You can see why these chicks might be into him. And then we have Ryoko, who is best girl. She's loud, she's brash, and she's completely over the top.
And she does end up with Tenchi in at least one of the many alternate universe continuities.
And depending on the continuity, her mother is actually this lady, Washu, the universe's greatest scientist, and possibly God. We're going to have to be using the phrase "and sometimes a lot." Now the other...
Just so you know, there will be spoilers abound in this panel. This is one of the few. So if you are not familiar with the Tenchi series, I have a feeling you probably wouldn't be here.
Ayaka, aside from Ryoko, is the other main girl, and depending on the continuity, she's either kind of a sweet tsundere...
Or just a huge, horrible bitch.
We can say that, it's Ushicon.
Yes.
And then we have Sasami.
Okay, I always shipped Tenchi with Sasami just because Sasami was the only one who didn't treat him like shit.
Sasami's all, you know, she's very sweet. And we have Ryo-Oki.
Who in some canons is part of the harem.
Yay. And then we have Mihoshi, probably the most underrated character in the Tenchi universe. And again, depending on the canon, she's either a well-meaning ditz or a complete total idiot.
Right. And then the 6th girl is not Kione. Kione was an invention for the universe canon. So this is the quote-unquote primary canon. So during OVA 3, you have the introduction of this girl named Noike.
Now, Noike is a lot like Kione in a lot of ways. She's meant to be the older, more mature woman. She actually was at one point Mihoshi's partner in the Galaxy Police.
So she's a complete ripoff of Kione.
I don't know if it's a ripoff if it's made by the real guy. Okay, now, of course, Tenchi Muyo, it started off with these OVAs in 1992. They were immensely popular in Japan. People absolutely adored them. Okay, and it was made primarily by 3 people.
Now, here's the thing. This is actually the best picture of Masaki Kajishima that exists. He is notoriously reclusive. People have been thrown out of Comiket for trying to take his picture. He is considered the primary creator. He even gave the Tenchi's family his name.
All right, now the next guy on here is Hiroki Hayashi. He was the director of the OVAs. He's credited with the creation of a lot of certain concepts like the Jiraiyan tree ships, certain character designs.
And then you have Naoko Hasegawa, who wrote the screenplay and became so enamored with the overall Tenchi Muyo story that she went on to write her own canon. She wrote, what, 12 light novels?
She wrote 13 novels
13 light novels.
based on her interpretation of what should happen to the
What she thought would happen after the last OVA.
You'll find out that when it comes to Tenchi Muyo, pretty much everyone has their own alternate version. Now the thing about this is because this was the 90s, you know, when internet wasn't very common and when scanlation
Didn't really exist.
You know, a lot of the articles and interviews about, you know, who came up with what ideas, who came up with which characters, it's all very, very muddy and difficult to pick apart. Now back to Naoko Hasegawa. After the 7th episode of the OVA, Pioneer commissioned her to write the Mihoshi special. This is essentially, it's an extended comedy episode of the series.
And this was the first video appearance of Kione and of Pretty Sammy.
It's, well, you run the clicker. I'm not sure. All right, now Tenchi Universe, because the Tenchi OVAs had sold so well, Pioneer decided we need to make a TV series out of this.
And they had the TV series, and none of the original 3 were involved in creating it.
Universe actually does have a lot of good moments, but there are some parts where the characters seem a lot simpler. Some of the storylines...
They removed, every redeeming quality Ayeka had, and every redeeming quality Mihoshi had. You see, in the original OVAs, Mihoshi is a well-meaning cop who's still a fairly competent cop, despite the fact that she's clumsy. In Tenchi Universe, you wonder why Kione hasn't launched her into the sun.
Because of shippy reasons.
Because there's, yes, sisterhood.
And then we have Tenchi in Tokyo.
Which was originally going to be a sequel to Tenchi Universe, but then they said, nah, this is yet another alternate universe. And none of the people involved in Universe were involved in the creation of this.
So you have Tenchi moves to Tokyo, and he fights random monsters every week, and a whole bunch of terrible things happen. And
yes.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about the Tenchi movies, we actually talk about the first and then the third movie because it actually makes more sense that way.
The first movie, I don't know what to say about it aside from the fact it's a big...
Other than dude has a laser disc of it.
Yay, thank you, Ted.
I was at the American premiere at Anime Expo when that happened.
That's
wow.
awesome.
I waited 3 hours in line for that.
How much? This is a big...
That was $45.
Huh.
My dad had to get it from Taiwan, I think.
This is a big, fun action romp. It's a good film if you haven't seen it. And it's very, very different to the third Tenchi film.
Now, the third Tenchi Muyo, or Tenchi Muyo in Love 2, this one, Tenchi is older. He's in his mid-20s. He's married. He's working as a painter. And one of the first scenes of the movie involves him with his wife in flagrante delicto on the balcony.
And he has absolutely no memory of any of the girls, any of the weird space stuff that happens.
And that's the overall plot. The girls kind of wonder what the hell happened to Tenchi and why he doesn't remember any of them.
All right, now before we talk about the second Tenchi movie, we're going to talk about Naoko Hasegawa's novels.
Again, like we said, she wrote 13 novels detailing her own canon.
I think it's in the final novel of this series, Ayeka and Sasami are called back to Jirai to do political things. So Tenchi and Ryoko grow slowly closer, and then
Tenchi ends up with Ryoko in this canon. This is not the primary canon, but in Hasegawa's canon, Hasegawa was a very devout Tenchi Ryoko shipper.
Okay.
And then it was the 8th Hasegawa novel, I believe, that got converted into the second Tenchi movie.
This one's kind of a goofy movie.
You have this girl appears claiming to be Tenchi's daughter from the future, and of course all the girls care about is who's the mother. And naturally, this being Tenchi Muyo, the answer is not simple at all.
Now, while actually a couple of years after Naoko Hasegawa wrote her novels, Masaki Kajishima decided he was still interested in Tenchi. He wanted to create his own books about the universe. So he wrote the True Tenchi novels. Now, the first of these was Jirai. This tells the story of King Asuza, how he founded Jiraiyan society, a little bit about the 3 goddesses. Yosho follows pretty much Yosho's entire life from childhood up until his battle with Ryoko, and then we have Washu.
Now, if you read I think one of these has been fully translated, but you can find Cliff's notes of the basic overarching plot, and if you read the Cliff's notes of Washu, suddenly OVA 3 makes sense.
But now we have to start talking
now we have to talk about something else before we get to OVA 3, and that's GXP.
Yay!
I recently finished that one.
Okay, who here is familiar with the name Shinichi Watanabe? He did Excel Saga and The Wallflower, Tokyo Pig, Nerima Daikon Brothers. They got him to direct this. Now, if you know anything about Nabishin, as he's so called, he does not really respect the source material as much as some adapters do, and he's known for shoving in himself and lots of gags. And he does that to GXP by making himself into a perverted robot named NB. Now, here's the deal. Kajishima hated what Nabeshin did to his series so much that he felt the need to write 12 GXP novels in order to fix the canon.
The 11th one of these books came out actually like just a couple weeks ago, and Kajishima has stated in some doujin that he's working on the 12th and 13th books. So you can kind of tell he's putting a lot of effort into this stuff.
Halfway through the series, you know how there's one episode of GXP where Tenchi actually appears? Kajishima stepped in and said he would not let Nabeshin direct that episode, so he directed that particular episode himself.
Now we get to talk about OVA 3.
OVA 3, okay, where do we start here? First off, they changed a lot of the voice actors.
Well, the main
one they changed was Ryoko, of course.
If you watch the dub of OVA 3, they don't get Patrea Bouchard, the original Ryoko, to voice her.
They get Izzy from Digimon.
Which sounds amazing. Kajishima originally believed he would have a full 12 or 26 episode series in which to tell a big epic story. And then he found out he got 7 episodes. So you have things like new villain, Tenchi's sister, stuff about Tenchi's mom, all kinds of new plot threads, GXP stuff, and then it all kind of just comes to a big
crashing halt.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff is really glossed over, like the stuff
about Kageto.
Like the Kageto's gender issues.
But we
talk about that in a bit.
Okay.
War on Geminar. Now, the first thing I want to say about War on Geminar is in Japan, this was not a Tenchi Muyo series. Tenchi Muyo was not in the title. It wasn't until Funimation picked it up. They decided, we need to get the old school Tenchi crowd in here, so they renamed Sage Machine Master Story to a Different World to Tenchi Muyo War on Geminar.
Now, this does take place within a Tenchi universe. There are connections to the kind of...
There are references to things that happened
and
in
appearances, but mostly it's just kind of a very separate...
Mostly it's a separate standalone story that involves Tenchi's half-brother Tenchi and his harem. Because, everyone gets a harem. And of course, like everything else, there are Geminar novels. None of these have even been remotely translated. There are light novels of everything.
Okay, now the official doujinshi, as we mentioned at the start, Masaki Kajishima has just been pumping out these things.
Now, some people think the word doujinshi means fan comics, but it really just, the proper definition is a comic that does not have a self-published comic. It doesn't have a proper...
It's
indie comic, yeah.
And the thing is, Kajishima has written, he's done the backstories of characters, Tenchi's children, Tenchi's future. A lot of these doujinshi are in fact very, very adult, but they are still canon.
We can talk, this is Ushicon, we can talk about that one. About the one where Sasami gets naked underneath a tree.
Yes, there is.
I should say future legal Sasami.
Yes, Sasami actually sees Tenchi and Noike consummating their love, and then goes to run off into the woods and do things
doing certain things by herself.
And
this is all considered official canon.
Because this is future, right?
Yes, future legal Sasami.
Yes, this isn't quite as horrifying. Slightly less. And
who got to watch New Tenchi?
Don't worry, it's not that good. Tenchi is now a high school teacher.
As soon as you hear the words Tenchi is a high school teacher, you know things have already gone wrong.
I've heard from some people, this was 55-minute episodes, I've heard from some people that apparently like the last 10 episodes are pretty good, but overall
Okay, first off, let's talk about the horrible art style. Take a look at the new character designs. That top row is supposed to be the original girls.
That is nothing. That is nothing but lies and bullshit.
Ryoko has a titty window now.
Ryoko has a titty window, Washu has a titty window, Mihoshi, what the fuck?
Mihoshi's
Sasami, what the fuck? You have sexy thighs Sasami now.
That's so wrong.
Yeah. And then you have all these new girls who have absolutely nothing to do with the plot. Why do you have another crazy scientist when you already have Washu? My theory is that they had written this, because the girls from the bottom are all based on the Legend of Momotaro. My theory is that they had written a shitty Momotaro harem, and someone got the idea, you know what, let's give Masaki Kajishima a whole shitload of money and ask him if we can just make it Tenchi.
Which is incredibly depressing because Masaki Kajishima has said several times
he wants to get Tenchi Muyo which is the one set in the future about Tenchi's kids. He wants to get that animated.
He wants to make anime about like Tenchi's future and Tenchi's kids and interesting stuff, and then they're like, no.
Stuff that's not
Make the
bullshit.
shit that's easy.
And then, you know, first of all, these episodes are only 5 minutes long. 28 seconds into the first episode, Tenchi receives panties to the face. 28 seconds. The girl on the left with the pink hair falls out of the sky, panties first, and lands butt first on Tenchi's face. 26 or 28 seconds in.
Yeah. Okay, now
First episode.
It's setting the stage, clearly.
Setting the stage for booty. Okay.
Okay, but moving on into what we call the outer Tenchi series, because we love stupid puns. Okay, these are series that were made by Kajishima or made by someone related to Tenchi Muyo that Kajishima has come out and said, yeah, that's canon, that probably happens in some universe, on some planet, somewhere in the Tenchi universe.
Has anyone actually seen Photon? It's a really, really kind of like, it's
only 6 episodes. There's a lot of nudity. The thing about Kajishima is you'll notice that in every single one of his works, the main character has some sort of special power. In this one, you have the little boy there, Photon, who comes off as if he's mentally challenged or very low-functioning autistic. But he is physically strong enough to lift a spaceship over his head. And he does end up with a harem by the end of this.
Yay. All right, now we get to talk about technically canon hentai.
Canon hentai. Okay.
Now in this series, the main protagonist's magic power is back rubs. He sees like little glowing arrows on women's bodies, and he's like, okay, and then they just explode in joy, like, hooray! This is literally the greatest.
Isn't Kajishima the greatest author ever?
Kajishima is amazing, and this actually they only released, I want to say, 2 or 3 episodes of this.
I think it was like 2.
Okay,
I only saw 2.
I think it was just 2.
And Kajishima has said that he was planning on doing a full 13-episode series of this.
Well, no, there actually was. He recently released a doujin where he put an abridged version of everything else that would happen. So you have pirate kidnapping, sex, royal family, more sex. And of course, it ends with a harem.
And you get a harem! And you get a harem! And you get a harem! Everybody gets a harem!
Okay, now this is...
Look under your seats,
God damn, that's a little harem.
Look under your seats, you find a harem.
This is probably one of the things we know the least about.
Alright, this was a light novel series that came out in 2013, and none of this has been remotely translated.
There's a guy on a resort planet, and he meets these hot girls, and they have, a lot of their last names are the last names of minor characters in Tenchi. So I think one of them's a Kurumitsu, one of them's a Shanks, and this is probably going to be important eventually, but we have no goddamn idea how or why.
Press the button.
Yay.
Duel! Okay, this is one of the, I will admit, I actually like this show. Because it is, if you watch it, you will realize it is either a homage to Evangelion or a complete rip-off of Evangelion. Some of the scenes are just shot for shot remakes of like the original where you have the Shinji in the phone booth in the first episode. There's like a shot for shot remake of that scene. You have the robot girl who needs to learn to love. who is a complete ripoff of Rei. But of course, what's her name? Dee?
Yes, Dee.
Dee, Kajishima has said, is important to the Tenchi universe somehow.
Everything is important, but we don't know why.
Okay.
El Hazard. Okay.
This one was done by Hiroshi Hayashi, the director of the first OVAs, and Kajishima has come out and said, yeah, that's canon too.
It happened.
Kajishima is very, very open to his canon universe.
There's someone born on the cover.
Yes.
Oh, that was actually pretty good.
But the thing is, I mean, I think also there was a series Hayashi did called Battle Programmer Shirase that Kajishima said.
I didn't realize that in the back you see that what's the head doing with his hand?
It's not quite a finger bang yet. It's an impending finger bang.
All right, now here's the part some of you have been waiting for. Pretty Sammy.
You're all terrible people.
It's because of people like you that there are actually more individual episodes of stuff featuring Pretty Sammy than there are individual episodes of stuff featuring Tenchi.
Oh, she's awesome, okay?
Sasami is now a middle school girl, and she's also a magical girl, and she transforms all naked and spinny. And
Yes, the first 3 OVAs are decidedly uncensored, and you get the clothes flying off stereotypical transformation. They cleaned that up a bit for Magical Project S, which was the 26-episode
TV series. And of course, there are Pretty Sammy novels.
Yeah.
I found these on eBay. I have no idea what they're about, but clearly someone cared enough about Pretty Sammy to write it.
It was probably Kajishima. Knowing Kajishima, it could very well be Kajishima.
And then we have Magical Girls Club.
Is that
This-
supposed to be her?
This is a kid's show.
Now this one is a bona fide, sanitized, G-rated kids show. So if you want something Tenchi-ish to show, your niece, this one is totally safe. And yes, despite the shitty art style that is in the middle supposed to be Sasami, even though it looks like a bastard clone of Sasami and Ryoko.
Let's see. Sasami goes to the magical world of witches with her witch club to be the very best witches and bake cupcakes and pet animals. Tell her to go the hell away.
Yes, I know.
Okay, now Tenchi Muyo video games. There are a goddamn lot of these. Okay, this is probably the most well-known Tenchi video game and the best. This is a SNES grid-based RPG, kind of like Bahamut Lagoon or Disgaea, except all of your characters are Tenchi.
You can even recruit the, wooden bodyguards. The
Kamidaki.
What are their names?
Kamidaki and blah blah blah.
Blah 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 and Kamidaki.
But you can have them in your party.
You can have them in your party.
Guys, I just bought it off Amazon.
No, here's the thing. That game was never released in the US, but there is a fan translation out there that has been available for like 20 years. So if you get a chance, that's what emulators are for.
Paradise CD.
Is this the one where...
It's the CD-ROM.
How many of y'all are old enough, like me, to remember when you would actually have to go to Best Buy and purchase a CD containing screensavers and clip art?
What's a CD?
Okay, this was one of those. You've got the... It's got a whole bunch of shit
It
on
has
it.
GIFs, wallpapers, sound clips. It's got a little quiz. How much do you know about Tenchi Muyo?
But they followed this up with Paradise CD 2, which is more of the same shit, but this one also included a
Mini RPG.
mini RPG where you have Tenchi as the warrior, Ryoko as the barbarian, Ayaka as the healer, and you have to go through pseudo-medieval land and slay the evil wizard Kagato.
I wish this had a fan translation.
Yeah.
I would play the hell
I would
out of
play
this.
that.
Rensa Hitsuo.
It's Puyo Pop with Tenchi.
And then we have No Need for School.
This is a dating sim where Sasami is the main girl.
So,
That means they at least age her up to Toonami, so it's not quite as awful.
Tenchi goes back to school, and all the girls miss him and decide they want to go to high school too.
And Sasami's like, I want to go to high school, so she turns into Toonami and goes to high school.
Yay. Then we have a Hot Springs episode.
This is a visual novel where Tenchi and the gang go to a hot spring. That's it.
What more do you need?
Tenchi Muyo Solitaire. Solitaire with Tenchi Muyo.
Tenchi Muyo Pinball.
Okay, now the next thing is kind of interesting.
Okay, now day after day, this was a piece of calendar software where depending on what day of the year it is, you'll get a personalized message from one of the characters. So like, it's April 1st, hell yeah!
Every morning, a Tenchi Muyo character would pop up on your desktop and give you a message saying, you want to do really, really blah, blah, blah this Ganbare, April 4th. And of course, because this is Japan, there's the Pretty Sammy version.
I know there's Pretty Sammy, then on the left is evil magical girl. I have no idea what the hell the one on the right is.
In case you can't see the price tag, it says 3,600 yen. People paid $36 for this shit.
And they also paid a lot of money for these.
Yes, the Pretty Sammy PS1 games, including the first one on the top, which has an inexplicable cameo by Naomi Armitage from Armitage 3.
These two they were essentially visual novels, but every now and then you'd be drawn into a rock, paper, scissors fight. Because reasons. Okay, now we're going to talk about Tenchi Muyo.
Okay, now go ahead and hit the button.
Well, you have the clicker.
Okay, Tenchi Muyo PC were 2 episodes of Tenchi Muyo, the series, released only for the computer.
Well, they were visual novels.
They were visual novels. They were called OVA 7.5 and OVA 9.8, and they were part of the canon originally. Later, Kajishima came by and said, yeah, these aren't canon anymore. And I want to call everyone's attention to this chick right here.
She's adorable.
That is Hakuwa. They tried to do the Mihoshi and Kiyone dynamic, except make Mihoshi the mature, older one.
So to make Hakuwa stupider than Mihoshi, they made her hyperactive. She's constantly eating, and at the end of every sentence, she says "nya." Yay!
She is seen in these 2 visual novels, and then never again.
Thank God. Okay, go forward. Okay, now this actually isn't out yet. This is coming out in a couple months.
It still says 1995.
I lied. Oh my God, time is folding in on itself.
This is for the DS, right?
No, this is an internet game.
Internet game?
This is a free-to-play, flash-based web game. It's a bunch of goofy-ass mini-games where if you play every day, you might be able to romance your favorite Tenchi character. Even if your favorite Tenchi character is maybe Kagato.
Yes, there will be dudes you can choose from.
Yeah.
Multiple basically is that Tenchi characters.
Yeah. Yeah, he's alright. Okay.
Okay, who has heard of the sound file? Yes. Okay, this was released on Laserdisc. Unfortunately, Ted doesn't have a copy of this.
What?
Okay.
Are you bringing those up? How do you want the movie?
These were 7, for lack of a better word, 7 official AMVs, all put on a Laserdisc. 2 of them contain original animation, and the others are just, you have some of the character image songs set to random Tenchi Muyo footage.
For example, if you noticed in the opening video, we had a couple of shots of Ayeka doing sex torture to Tenchi. Her image song is a
Call Me Princess.
little piece called Call Me Princess.
That one is...
That's about all we need to say, isn't it?
That's one of the 2 that's animated, and the only other one that's animated is the Pretty Sammy theme song.
I'd buy that for $1.
Yay. I always forget to bring this with me.
We own one of these. This is a Tamagotchi where you have to raise Ryo-Oki into a spaceship.
Yay. It's cute and it's fun. Now
Okay, how many tabletop players we got here? Who's familiar with the big eyes, small mouth, the Besson system? Okay, yeah. Just like every other anime that came out in the 90s, Tenchi Muyo had a Besom handbook. Actually, it had 3 Besom handbooks. So if you're ever curious as to what Tenchi's spirit score would be and how well he would fare in a dice fight against Osei Yosho.
Or, I think there's an Inuyasha and a Ranma.
Yes, they were interchangeable, so you could fight Tenchi against Inuyasha.
The ultimate showdown of ultimate
Tenchi versus Chishomaru. That would be a good fight. I'd watch an epic rap battle of that.
Okay, now...
And Magius is the Japanese tabletop version
It's the Japanese Besom, essentially.
Although it's closer to GURPS than Besom.
In terms of the gameplay, but this was, again, another RPG system designed around being able to roleplay your favorite anime. And now we talk about the manga.
We put the manga down here because it is yet another alternate universe canon, as evidenced by the completely different art style, although nowhere near as bad as Tenchi Muyo I.
I actually think this art style looks kind of cute.
You can, yeah. Okay, oh god, the Paname comics.
Yay.
We actually have one of these courtesy of Ted here. If you want to pass that around.
Pioneer, a lot of their anime were being released in America. They wanted to promote these, so they commissioned a group of amateur American comic artists
to release a grimdark American adaptation of Tenchi Muyo.
Yes!
It's the best.
You have the evil cabin hunter, Dante Mix.
No, that's not the. That's the.
He's the bounty hunter.
You have this cabot hunter with a dog cabot who travels the universe trying to kill all the regular cabots.
And then you have a bounty hunter named Dante Mix with 2 X's.
And he has a crush on Ryoko.
And he eventually merges with Ryoko to create the evil demon Inferno.
AKA Ryoko with bad highlights and David Bowie.
If you see over here the Ryoko, the David Bowie goth Ryoko, that's Inferno.
Wait, what's the cabin? I just got back.
Ryoko. Ryoki.
Yeah.
So yeah, these were exactly as bad as you think they were. And if you're interested, we have all of these on our computer right now if you have a flash drive. If you don't, take one of our schedules because we have all our social media on there and contact us after the con. And we would be glad to send these horrible turds to you so they can scar your eyes too.
101 questions. Now, the OVAs were such an immense phenomena in Japan that Pioneer organized an event where fans could actually mail in whatever random shit you want to ask about Tenchi Muyo.
And Kajishima answered all of it, no matter how stupid or obscure.
You have things like, hey, what happened to that cat in episode 1? Is the cat okay?
And Kajishima wrote like 2 pages.
Apparently the cat's essence was kind of tangentially absorbed into Ryo-Oki, and that's why Ryo-Oki is part cat. And then someone asked, hey, why does Mihoshi always have her hair look? It looks stupid. And then Kajishima, he claims that Mihoshi's hair ribbon is actually an artifact of immense mystical powers.
I will say in one of the doujinshi, Mihoshi's hair ribbon gets a little bit wet, and she turns into a psychopath and starts trying to kill everybody.
Well then.
And then we have Tenchi.
Okay, we don't even know where to start on audio dramas. Every single Tenchi character, no matter how ridiculously small and obscure, has some sort of audio drama.
If anybody remembers Tenchi's fat classmate with like the strawberry nose, there's a drama CD.
He has his own drama CD. It's called, what's it called?
It's called Otaku Dare, and it's about how much of an otaku Tenchi's fat friend is, because why not? And now we get to talk about all the weird canon stuff.
Okay, this is where things get into spoilerier territory, in case anybody gives a shit.
God, please.
We're going to spoil everything, even the things that don't make any goddamn sense.
We will, however, attempt to explain some of the things that don't make any goddamn sense.
All right, you do the big, deep voice.
In the beginnings. I don't want to do this. I can't.
In the beginning was this shit. Okay.
In the beginning, there was this shit.
Okay, so you had the three great goddesses. You had Washu, Toonami, and Tokimi. And after a while of just generally existing, they kind of thought to themselves, if we're sentient, did something make us? It was kind of one of those weird stoner conversations at 3 a.m. Like, what if there's like a God? Wouldn't that be
Okay,
weird?
we're God, man. But what if there's like a God who like made the gods, man?
And so in order to
Dude,
solve...
pass the Doritos.
Giant space Doritos.
Dude, these space Doritos are so good, man.
And so in order to solve this great riddle,
I'm gonna turn myself into a tree, man.
Stop fucking calling us, Jess.
Turn your phone off. Okay, Tokimi decides to stay as a goddess and lord over people and have minions. Tsunami merges with a Jiraiyan royal tree, and eventually, you know, when Sasami first gets her brains cracked open, merges with Sasami to become Sasami Tsunami. And then you have Washu, who decided the best course of action was to wipe her memory, turn herself into a mortal, and put her baby self on a random space monastery. I'm gonna need you to talk for a sec.
Yeah, hold on. I'm telling Jess to shut the F up. Okay.
God damn it, piss off.
Okay, here's some. Well, first off, I don't know. I know absolutely nothing about the bioroids. You're gonna have to do this slide.
Okay.
And I'll talk about Washu's.
You can talk about Naja.
Gal pal.
Okay. Now, a little bit before Washi wiped her memory, she was captured by an alien civilization who are vaguely referred to in both GXP and Geminar as the precursors or the ancients or something. And when she was captured, they tried to clone her and created these three bioroid, part android, part living being creatures, who D from Duel is one of them.
Yeah.
But then these three all killed each other, Washu escaped, wiped her memory,
And then deposited her mortal self as a baby on the steps of a science monastery, where she grew up to become a genius and she made a friend. This is Naja. Go ahead and hit the next button. You'll see Naja kind of resembles another character from the Tenchi universe.
and there's a reason for
And there's a reason for that. If you can't tell, she kind of looks like Kagato.
Can I go forward?
No, not yet. So, this is all written in the Washu novel that Kajishima wrote, the True Tenchi novel. Naja disappears in a space pirate attack.
Her body is never
And
found.
her body is never found. Washu is devastated by this, like driven to sheer despair, and starts trying to clone Naja back to life. As we all know, that's a bad idea to ever do in any sort of work of anything. So, one of the incomplete clones of Naja escapes, fuses with a male Ryoko prototype, and becomes Kagato, who is both a man and a woman.
Which, if you've seen OVA 3, they drop this in like a random line about, I think they literally just say, Kagato's a hermaphrodite, and then they move on. Which is kind of a bit of a bombshell,
But Kagato, here's the deal with Kagato, is he hated Washu so much that he rid himself of all female characteristics, who became that girl who appears randomly at the end of OVA 3 and says, "Don't go, I'm a Kagato too." And her essence goes through several changes and eventually becomes Noike. So technically, well, we'll get to that later.
No.
Technically,
Kagato
is part of the harem.
kind of.
Kind of.
And now we get to Mihoshi.
All right, this little screenshot we found here.
This is from a couple of frames from OVA 3. When Mihoshi's big brother finds out that Mihoshi is living on Earth with a man, he starts freaking out, getting overprotective, and saying, I can't let anything happen to her again.
And of course, what exactly happened to her is never explained, even in doujinshi. Although when he says that, this can never happen again, a few like one-frame things flash onto the screen, and this is one of them, which looks really, really creepy. She looks dead to the world. We don't know what's up.
But it's mentioned as far back as, I think, episode 4 or 5 by Kagato that Mihoshi...
You used to be this badass space cop. What happened to you?
Yeah, she used to have a reputation as an amazing, competent cop who could do anything, and now she's Mihoshi.
He had a brain.
Apparently, Kajishima was originally going to write a 4th True Tenchi novel called Mihoshi, but then...
That never materialized.
Sadly. But that would have been really interesting. And now more OVA 3 stuff.
Is Tenchi God?
This is another piece of OVA 3 madness. A giant glowing white Tenchi is like, hey, I know everything's crazy right now, but I can fix this.
Literal Deus Ex Machina.
Just everything that is going to hell gets fixed by glowing white Tenchi. The main theory is that this Kami Tenchi is actually the god who created the 3 goddesses, and he created Tenchi as his human avatar in order to be a focal point for all the universe's crazy women.
To keep the universe's crazy women focused on him, because otherwise they would destroy the universe.
Here's the thing, pretty much everyone in Tenchi's harem is immensely powerful, and apparently if left to their own devices, they will destroy...
Would erase all of creation.
And now we get to the big...
Now we get to the big reveal. Okay. As we mentioned before, Kajishima has been writing doujinshi for the last, 20 years. And one of the things that was answered in canon is the girl Tenchi eventually ends up with. Okay, if you know, do not answer. If you have a guess, we want to hear it.
Yeah.
Who do you think it is? Purple?
Tenchi ends up with the toe.
Fluttershy.
Fluttershy. Yes. Okay. All right. Here's the answer. All right. Tenchi eventually moves from Earth to Jirai, becomes assimilated into Jiraiyan society, and marries everybody.
Go figure, right?
He marries all 3 goddesses. He marries Ayeka. He marries Mihoshi. He marries
Sasami.
Noike. He married... Well, Sasami is one of the 3 goddesses.
Oh, yes, okay.
He marries Ryooki, who adopts a humanoid furry appearance.
If anyone remembers, I think it's like episode 8 or 9 where Ryooki absorbs that energy from one of Dr. Clay's robots and becomes like a little furry girl.
I'm done. I have to.
Tenchi hits that.
But here's the thing. She eventually, for no reason whatsoever, turns from a little furry girl into an adult furry girl.
An adult furry naked girl.
And yes, a naked adult furry girl.
We don't know why. Now let's talk.
Do you have a picture of that?
We have a picture of, well, in a minute.
We do not have any
We don't
adult
have any
naked
pictures of Ryooki, but we do have something else to show you.
Yay.
Tenchi Muyo If is the other doujinshi that Kajishima has been working on, and this one deals with the future and all of Tenchi's children.
Okay, now should I just go to the next picture?
Yeah. So we'll show you here.
And we also have Seina's kids.
Okay, these 3 boys are Seina Yamada's 3 sons. Seina Yamada, the dude from GXP. He ends up with a harem and has 3 sons, okay? So you have up here, you have obvious baby Ayeka and baby Ryoko, who would naturally become rivals for Seina Yamada's oldest son. You have the middle son, who ends up with Ryoki's entire litter.
They're triplets.
And then at the bottom, you have baby Mihoshi and baby Noike. Now, baby Noike was the one that was in the most recent issue of If.
Recently, it's revealed that baby Noike apparently has some kind of weird emotional condition where she has no feelings. And of course, her and Genki baby Mihoshi become a harem for Seina's ittiest, bittiest, littlest son.
And then push the button.
Yay.
And then you have the future, where you have eldest son marrying both of them, and then middle son marrying up to Ryoki's entire
Kajishima is really, really big on polygamy, just because, just marry a bunch of-
Everyone gets a harem, and then the harems beget more harems until you have haremception. Literal haremception.
Harem on harem.
I don't know what else I can say about
At
that.
some point, the entire universe is just going to be populated by Tenchi's kids and Seina's kids and Kenshi's kids.
Well, I mean, they already fuck each other's brothers and sisters.
It's just going to be the universe of incest.
It already is. Have you ever seen people attempt to create the Tenchi Muyo family tree? It looks like a fucking Virginia creeper ivy. It just bends in on itself repeatedly.
West Virginia.
West Virginia, yes. Tenchi, West Virginia.
Kentucky.
Okay, now aside from as we mentioned before, Kajishima is pumping out so much new material that he's trying to get pitched as animated series. You have GXP Bon, War on Geminar Bon. He's released some doujinshis for Agaruder and Photon, and he just keeps...
He really, really, really wants to get this shit made into an anime, and the only thing they will make is Tenchi Muyo I.
Which makes Kajishima cry. It makes Tenchi Muyo cry, as well as I'm sorry.
I don't know where else to go from that. I think we're just about done.
Yeah, we kind of blasted through that at the speed of light.
Well, no, they wanted us to done 10 till.
Oh, we do? Oh, we speeded at this at the exact speed we were supposed to be. Nothing happened. This is how it always goes. We always talk this fast.
I didn't tell you that they wanted us to 10 till, did I?
No, you didn't tell me. I thought I was just talking fast.
Okay, we are Vitamin H. We are here all weekend. If you thought that this panel was awesome, be sure to come up here and get one of our cards and our schedules because we have, here, I'll just pass
We
it out.
do panels at cons across the country, a whole bunch in Texas.
Pass shit up.
We will pass the shit out of that shit. But
We won't pass that shit.
Shit with shit.
if you love Japanese culture, if you love old anime, if you love video games, if you love
if you did
weird
not already
random
get one
shit,
of
we
these.
do panels on everything.
Okay, and anybody not getting these?
Don't worry, he'll bring some to the front. Some of the panels we're doing this weekend include Ninja History, funny English dubs of hentai,
Yes.
Takashi Miike murder movies, horror manga, and dating games for ladies, which we will...
Body, body, body.
Here's the thing, even if you are not a woman and even if you're not interested in that kind of stuff, don't worry because it's going to be a fairly tongue-in-cheek panel and we'll be making fun of some of the stupider ones. We are going to talk about How to Fool Boyfriend and also, if you've ever heard of a game called Duel Love, there was a DS dating game where you have to massage people with the stylus. It was terrible.
Do you want to give naked men a back rub with the stylus? That's the answer.
I don't.
You get one?
Yeah, we both got it.
Alright, I think we're done.
Okay, thank you all for coming. Be sure to come to all the rest of our panels and see us around the con.